What has your child told you that caused you to call the police? 1. I was in the shower one day when my 7-year-old came in and said that there were 2 babies walking down the middle of the street. We were having a massive storm. Sure enough, I found a 21/2-yo and an 11-mo walking down the street. I talked to the older one and asked where they lived and he showed me. When I got there, both mothers were passed out on the couch. I had to knock and yell to get their attention. The one grabs the baby and then smacks the older child so hard he flew over the coffee table. She was screaming at him that he was supposed to be watching the baby. How can a baby watch a baby? Yep. I called the cops and CPS. Don't regret it at all. 2. Several years ago my daughter, about 16 at the time, was talking with one of her friends online. The girl had taken some OxyContin and started telling my daughter how her vision was going in and out, and she felt like she was going to pass out. I asked about the girl's parents, but they were not home. By this time the girl was saying that she was scared she had taken too much. I called 911, told them what was going on and gave them her address. Apparently the parents arrived home at the same time the police and emergency services got there. She was taken, by ambulance, to the hospital. It turned out she was fine. She told my daughter that she hadn't really taken anything, but was just saying that to see what she would do. I don't know if that was true or not, but my daughter no longer was friends with her. I'm sure she got into trouble with her parents, and possibly the police. Either way. 3. I have 13 kids. I have always wanted a big family. I adopted one from China. She is deaf and the sweetest 5-year-old ever. We adopted her when she was 3. We get a few racist remarks because we are black and she is Chinese. They think she needs a Chinese family to have a good life. She is happy with us. So nope. She can't talk because she is completely deaf and no hearing aids or a cochlear implant will help. She will be deaf forever, unless there is something invented in the future that helps. She is able to say mama because she reads our lips and tries to copy the shape our lips make and make sound. That's the only word she can say. She came home from school one day. Since she can read lips really good, she is in a hearing school, but in a special class for deaf people or hard of hearing people. She told her siblings, who then told us that her teacher told her she was sick in sign language, because she is from China. In sign language, you can't name a virus unless you finger spell it. My daughter is only 5, so it's hard for her to put words together by spelling it out. Her teacher was telling her that she brought COVID into this world and that she was sick with it because it started out in China. She was only 2 when COVID started. She didn't even fully understand about COVID. The teacher believed every Chinese person had COVID, no matter how old or young. Since my daughter had COVID, she wasn't allowed to go to lunch that day and eat. She wasn't allowed to learn with the class, and she wasn't allowed to go outside and play. When they were learning, she was sitting in a chair far away with a mask on. I didn't call the police, but I called the school and got her fired, and she might be going to court for a hate crime. 4. My son, who is mixed race, told me that another boy at school was calling him names and throwing lighted matches at him, some of which could have burned his clothing with dire results. I called the police. They sent a very large and imposing officer who told us I'll take care of this, invited my 8-year-old son into the back of the police car and drove him to school, opening the door for him and escorting him to the principal's office to deal with the culprit. My son was thrilled that he was the talk of the school for arriving in a police car, and the bully was suitably scared out of his wits enough to never try such a thing again. 5. This didn't happen to me, but when my sister was about 13 she went outside to get something from the backyard. A few minutes later she came running in and slammed the door and locked it. Her face was white and she looked terrified. She came and told my mom that there was a man hiding behind our big tree in the backyard and she saw him just in time to get to the door before he got in. We were in a bad neighborhood and often got trespassers in our yard, so unless there was more of a problem than that we didn't usually call the police. My mom just made sure everything was locked and told all of us to stay in the house for the night. But just a short time later that same night we were watching the show America's Most Wanted and a man's face popped up on the TV and my sister screamed that it was the same man in our backyard. The show said he was wanted for murder. That's when my mom called the police and they ended up catching the man because they found him in the area. 6. This is kind of the same thing, but the school called the cops on me. This was during quarantine. I'm a senior, so I've been applying for scholarships as most seniors do. I was applying for multiple scholarships and one required we write a PSA, public service announcement, and I chose the topic mental health awareness. There was a whole list. I've lost people I'm close with to suicide and I know people who struggle with mental health illnesses. So it's 2 a.m. on a Thursday night, I'm writing away. I looked up some facts about different illnesses and the crisis hotline and the nation's suicide prevention hotline. I started to get tired and went to bed, no biggie. So the next day I'm doing homework and chores and I was having a bad migraine and my knee injury was killing me. I took some Tylenol and took a nap. I woke up around 8:30 and went to go eat dinner. At around 9 I see my dog looking out the window getting jumpy, so I look out the window and sure enough there are police cruisers outside my house. As a typical teenager I'm flipping out like, oh my, what are they here for? Oh boy, I'm in so much trouble. They pull my mom outside and talk for about 5 to 10 minutes, then she comes inside and calls for me. The cops was like, hi, are you Savannah? I'm like, yeah, hi. He goes, how are you feeling? I'm like, tired, sick, my head's pounding and got a hurt knee, but other than that I'm living the dream. He goes, are you okay? You're not hurt? I said no. ? He asked like 5 more times before I said, what's going on? He said the school called saying I was suicidal and looked up the suicide hotline last night. I explained what had happened and the truth behind it all and he laughed, said okay, sorry for the misunderstanding, and left. 7. My daughter told me a 16-year-old male student was trying to get a 6-year-old female student to touch it. This is a rural county school. K-12 ride buses, It's a very long route. Short-staffed, very hard to find drivers. Substitutes are taking turns driving so they don't know the students or routes well. Roads are curvy, hilly, uneven, poorly maintained, trucking route, timber and quarry. Not safe to be looking in the mirror. Many creeks. Have to go over narrow, rickety old bridges. Driver has enough to worry about. I can't imagine driving a bus. I drove a truck. Nerve-wracking enough. One driver had panic attack and had to pull over and wait for another driver. Supposed to be a second adult on bus almost never happens. Lucky to have drivers at all. Very little adult supervision on an hour-long ride. My daughter was 11. My sons were 13, 15. They verified the kid is creepy. I felt compelled to report this. First of all, he's 16. Obviously going to be a predator, will have other victims. Secondly, my daughter said the girl was not only 6 but maybe a little special needs. Didn't seem to understand it was bad. Likely wouldn't have told her mom or known not to do it. In her eyes, he's an adult. But I had no idea what hell this would bring down on us. I don't want to say from now on I'll keep my mouth shut. But let's just say, next time I'll find another way to handle it than going to the proper channels. Maybe I'll just tell some good old boys and her daddy and let them sort it out. But I'll never call cops again. Even if I'm on fire.